Creating an iconic character to represent a franchise is no easy task. Creating one that is iconic while being simple in design is even harder. But through all the years I've spent playing video games, I can't think of a character as simple yet iconic and recognizable as the Trapper. The Trapper is the face of Dead by Daylight. He's the character you see in most of the promotional material, including the cover art of the game itself. He's the character chosen to represent everything Dead by Daylight is and what it aims to be. And in this video, I'm going to dive into everything about the Trapper, his general design, the details of his gameplay, his history since his beginning, and where he is today. So without further ado, let's dive into it. The Trapper is one of the 3 original killers included at the launch of Dead by Daylight, along with the Wraith and the Hillbilly. As far as his visual design, as I mentioned in the intro, it's rather basic. He wields a large cleaver as his weapon of choice, stands tall with a rather large and wide, muscular build, and hides his face behind a mask adorned with a cracked and twisted smile. The inspiration from Jason Voorhees is pretty clear, and maybe why he's still one of my favorite designs to this day, as I am a massive fan of Friday the 13th. Anyways, as far as his gameplay and his power, as a result of being one of the earliest killers, the Trapper is extremely simple conceptually. His power is straightforward and easy to understand. He can place bear traps around the trial to catch survivors who aren't watching their step. These bear traps are scattered throughout each trial and can be walked up to and collected by the Trapper, at which point he will carry it in his hand and can place it wherever he pleases after a short animation. Any survivor who steps into these traps will be immobilized for a period of time, and the Trapper will be notified that one of his traps has been triggered, at which point he can begin making his way over to his newly captured prey. Traps can be disarmed by survivors who manage to spot it before stepping into its ferocious jaws, and that's really it. It doesn't get much more simple than that, honestly. This was a trend among most of the earlier killers, honestly, as the game was still in its infancy and the developers were finding their footing. Simple does not mean bad, though, far from it. It's often the case that, in fact, less is more, and I think the Trapper is definitely one of those. The Trapper is able to cause an incredible amount of tension when playing against him, as you never know which patch of grass or which tight corner could have a trap lying in wait for you to make one wrong step. This creates an amazing dynamic between the survivors and the Trapper. Placing a trap and having a survivor find themselves caught is extremely satisfying and makes you feel like an absolute 500 IQ giga-genius. On the other hand, noticing a trap and disarming it as a survivor is also very rewarding, as you manage to see what could have been you or someone else's demise before it happened, and you prevented it. It's this back and forth of each side trying to outsmart the other, with the Trapper trying to successfully plan ahead and think about where survivors will go, and placing traps in those areas while managing to keep them hidden from survivors' eyes, while survivors need to keep an eye out and watch their pathing. And that back and forth dynamic is at the core of what makes Dead by Daylight's gameplay work. So on that front, the Trapper is a massive success. However, the Trapper is not the most amazing killer on the roster, unfortunately. While he is a fan favorite, of course, being the face of the game, he has had quite a struggle over his long lifespan in the game, and that's something we'll go more in depth on later in the video. However, people adore him, and many still main him despite his relatively weak status out of sheer loyalty to the character, and hell, even I find myself itching to play him from time to time. There's just something so fun about him, and that's a testament to Behavior's design team, I would say. The Trapper, upon his release, and subsequently the release of the game, and during his early days, was extremely bare bones. Many things you would think would be a part of his kit from the beginning wouldn't be introduced until many years and patches later. For example, it wouldn't be until patch 2.1.0 that his bear traps could no longer be permanently sabotaged by survivors and would respawn after 3 minutes. This would later be changed again in patch 3.6.0, where bear traps could no longer be sabotaged at all. Thank God. And it also wouldn't be until this patch that Trapper could reset bear traps already on the ground without having to pick them back up. Yeah. For years, the Trapper was unable to do this for whatever reason, You had to go through the process of picking it up and putting it back on the ground, which would sometimes not even be possible if you already had the maximum number of traps in your possession at the time. Why this wasn't thought of beforehand, I don't know. I don't know why it took several years to be put in the game, but it's here now. Anyways, he would receive many of quality of life adjustments like this over his lifespan, including increasing the speed at which he collects and places traps, increasing how long survivors take to disarm a bear trap, and an entire add-on rework followed by another add-on pass sometime later. Trapper would receive his first ultra-rare add-ons in this first rework, however one of them was just a previous add-on moved up a rarity. Yeah, it wasn't good. Anyways, the Trapper's add-ons, like pretty much the rest of him, are simple, straightforward, and easy to understand. God, I feel like a broken record already, but there really isn't much to be said about the nitty-gritty of his gameplay, which is also why this video is relatively short. Anyways, let's go over them real quick. The Spring add-ons will increase how long it takes to disarm your traps, with the ultra-rare Spring Bloody Coil injuring healthy survivors who disarm your traps. Simple and effective. The Trapper's Gloves, Trap Setters, Setting Tools, and Fastening Tools will all increase the speed at which you place your traps. Again, simple and effective. Logwood Dye and Tar Bottle will both darken your bear traps, with the Tar Bottle being the much more effective of the two. Pretty much disregard the dye. Anyways, the two Stone add-ons will cause your traps to behave in some unique ways. Honing Stone will cause survivors who free themselves from your bear traps to be put into the dying state. Needless to say, this is a very powerful add-on, and much better than its old version, being a 50% chance to put survivors in the dying state regardless of how they escape the trap. We love RNG. We actually don't. And the Iridescent Stone will cause one trap at random to set itself without requiring your input every 30 seconds. Once again, a very powerful, if simple, add-on. The Jaws series of add-ons will apply unique statuses to survivors who step into your traps. Padded Jaws will prevent survivors from being injured by your traps, with the bonus of giving you 100% more points for trapping survivors. Yes, it's a bad DP add-on. Moving on. The Serrated Jaws will cause survivors to suffer from the Hemorrhage status effect when stepping into your traps. Anyways, the Rusted Jaws are not too shabby, as it will cause survivors who introduce their foot to Mr. Bear Trap to suffer from the Mangled status effect until healed. The Bag add-ons are by far his best and borderline required if you want to have a fighting chance against good survivors. These add-ons will increase how many traps you can carry at a time, the default number being 1. The Trapper Sack will raise this by 1, as well as start you off with 1 extra trap, up to a maximum of 2. The Trapper Bag will increase the carry capacity by 2, starting you off with 1 extra trap up to a maximum of 3 traps at a time. And the Stitched Bag will increase the carry capacity by 2, but will start you off with 2 extra traps, once again up to a maximum of 3. These add-ons drastically improve Trapper's time efficiency, as having to constantly collect traps one by one after placing just a single bear trap every single time takes an absurd amount of time, and is quite frankly one of the things I think could be changed to improve the Trapper's gameplay experience and just generally make him much stronger. The Trapper's teachable perks, much like his add-ons and the rest of his kit, are once again very basic, very simple, very easy to understand. So easy to understand, in fact, that I'm not going to spend very much time on them, and I'm going to go over them very quickly, just right here, right now. Level 30, you will unlock the Teachable for the perk Unnerving Presence, which will cause survivors within your terror radius to have a 10% greater chance of triggering skill checks, and those skill check success zones will be 60% smaller. At level 35, you will unlock the Teachable for the perk Brutal Strength. Brutal Strength will allow you to kick pallets, generators, and walls 20% faster. And at level 40, you will unlock the teachable perk Agitation. Agitation will increase your terror radius by 12 meters when carrying a survivor, as well as increase your movement speed by 18% while carrying a survivor. Overall, the Trapper is an extremely fun and extremely easy to pick up killer to play with in Dead by Daylight. Almost everyone loves him, he's a fan favorite, he is the icon, he's the face of the game, but unfortunately he's just not that good. And it's really sad to say because, again, he's the face of the game, everyone knows him, and most people love him, even still with him not being amazing, but behavior could definitely do more to improve him. Just off the top of my head, I would say they definitely should allow him to just carry all of his traps. He shouldn't have to, or at least more than one by default. The trapper should not have to go around and pick up his traps and then go and set them. It takes too much time. It should be a lot more similar to Hack, where you just have the traps in your inventory at all times. You don't have to worry about walking around and picking them up, because that just wastes so much time. And on top of the fact that where the traps spawn is complete RNG, so you could have a trap that spawns in the corner of the map, super far away from everything, and you never even get a chance to use it anyway. So that also solves that problem, if he could just hold on to his traps. Some of his add-ons could also probably do with a pass, but overall, just increase, just let the man carry his traps. It would do so much for him if he could just have his traps and didn't have to worry about going around and giving them. It's just, it's awful behavior. Please buff this good boy. Everyone wants him to be good. And that's it. I thank everybody for watching so much. If you've made it to the end, thank you. If there's any killers specifically you guys want me to cover, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to make more of these. I've been playing Dead by Daylight for years now, since the beginning, so I was there for everything, pretty much, all the major releases. Or if you guys just want me to go in order, you know, I could totally do that, in which case the next video would be the Wraith, and then the Hillbilly, and then Nurse, and so on and so forth, Myers, and just go in order. But yeah, until then, I will see you guys in the next one, and until then, see you in the fog.